effort.
I'm Mina Kimes, or a B for B team. Who wrote that? Come on.
That hurt to say, right? That hurt to say that you're actually satisfied with a B in any hypothetical
Especially because,
regard.
as you know, a B is an Asian F.
It's an F. An F minus
Hate that
at
for
this
us.
rate. Welcome to PTI, by the way. Mike and Tony are off square dancing, I believe. So I'm pleased to be joined by my great friend from NFL Live and the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny, Mina Kimes. There is that familiar and almost tauntingly strong feedback in favor of my opponent. But we begin today with the Raiders agreeing to terms with Kirk Cousins, Vita. The Falcons cut Cousins last month after 2 seasons. The 37-year-old joins a team coached by Clint Kubiak, who was his quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator for 3 seasons with the Vikings. Vegas will also presumably take Heisman Trophy winner and national championship winner Fernando Mendoza with the first pick in the upcoming draft, and I know you could not be more excited for that. Mendoza also had a strong pro day yesterday, so who do you expect to start in week 1?
I think it could be Kirk Cousins. And I say that, and it's not an indictment on Fernando Mendoza, who I think will be the first overall pick. I think he should be the first overall pick. He is accurate, he is tough, he is large, but he also hasn't done a lot of the things that the Raiders head coach and play caller Clint Kubiak wants him to do, which is play under center, throw over the middle of the field. Pablo, watching Fernando Mendoza's entire season in Indiana, I can count the number of snaps he played under center on one hand. He also threw over the middle of the field at a low rate. That's just not what Indiana asked him to do. It is, however, something that Kirk Cousins has done forever. He did it in Minnesota with Kubiak, and you saw him do it once he returned to health in Atlanta. So to me, it makes sense to bring him in so that you can onboard Mendoza slowly as he acclimates to the offense and gets him comfortable without forcing the issue.
Yeah, first off, I just love that these 2 guys are together on a depth chart. We're going to fast forward past the draft and just acknowledge the 2 most linked in athletes in sports history are connecting. They are finally together. It's kind of perfect. And you're right to point out that they're also different despite that basic vibe. I think that if you're trying to protect and raise a young quarterback, which is the hardest thing to do in the NFL, you want him to be the guy who comes in relief at some point and not the guy who goes out there and then maybe gets relieved by Kirk Cousins. And I'm thinking about this because I've talked to our friend Alex Smith, number 1 overall pick before. I remember the stories that Peyton Manning expressed, what it's like to be thrown out there when the team is bad enough to draft you at number 1 overall, and how it could be that the pressure can be destructive.
Well, you made another crucial point there. The team was bad enough to draft Mendoza, and the team is improved, but I still have some reservations about the build. They signed the highest-paid center, Tyler Linderbaum, great for Mendoza, but the rest of the offensive line was pretty atrocious last year, and this is not the most dominant group of pass catchers, shall we say. That's one of the worst things for Las Vegas about the Max Crosby trade being undone. They can't get another skill player in the first round because they don't have that pick anymore. So that's another reason why I think it makes sense for Mendoza to sit. Not only do you want him to learn the scheme, get comfortable playing under center, but you also want to make sure that that offensive line isn't going to get him killed.
Could I also just ask you whether there's been more of a she's all that style prospect than Fernando Mendoza? Because the guy, as you point out, it's like the big revelation is like, wow, he's tall and has muscles. And I'm like, did he just take off his glasses for the first time? Like, we're being surprised that this dude is actually a good athlete somehow.
He doesn't wear glasses, but spiritually, he wears glasses on the field. All right, let's move on to another quarterback, the scrutiny on Jalen Hurts. Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler report that team sources are pointing the finger at Hurts for some of the team's offensive struggles. Specifically, Hurts is criticized for his unwillingness to leave the shotgun to move under center, another one, his resistance to pre-snap motion, and his reluctance to just let it rip. Pablo, what do you read into this report?
Yeah, I'm reading the list of offensive coordinators, play callers that Jalen Hurts has had, and it's 6 and 7 years, right? And so, look, I believe that a report like this indicates that A.J. Brown and his various discontents and the various controversies that you can hear listening to sports talk radio in Philly all the time Certainly, there are a lot of people in the building who are frustrated by Jalen Hurts. But to me, the question is, we just watched the worst Eagles offense under Nick Sirianni last season. And if I'm taking anything away from that, it's the fact that this dude maybe should open up his aperture in terms of what he's comfortable with on the field. That's a through line in these topics so far. But he also has been failed by his coaching staff, and I think that's indisputable too.
Yeah, it is an interesting through line, right? Talking about these quarterbacks and whether or not they play under center. But the difference, of course, is that Fernando Mendoza, he just wasn't asked to do it. And also most college quarterbacks don't do it. So I think there's reason to believe you can get him to do it in the NFL, and he's going to be good at it. Whereas with Jalen Hurts, we have now watched him play in this league for many years with many different coaches. And while a lot of the issues last season were due to the offensive coordinator, Kevin Patula, who was fired, I do think at this point is undeniable. The guy has his preferences. Now, where I would quibble is with anyone who says because of those preferences, the offense can't be successful. We are only a year removed, right, from this team making it to the Super Bowl with a very successful offense. I think, though, the lesson from that offense and the times when the Eagles have looked good with Hurts is that it's come with a dominant run game. When the Eagles have a dominant run game, opposing defenses have to bring a safety into the box, so your Jalen Hurts gets to face the kinds of coverages that he likes to throw at, which is specifically getting one-on-ones outside. And what happened last year, the Eagles' run game also cratered, and there was sort of a cascading effect. So to bring this back to Hurts and what the Eagles need to do to get better, I'm of the belief they can still be successful with him. He is going to be their quarterback moving forward. I just think what we have learned about him over the years is they got to run the football better to create the conditions for him to succeed.
Yeah, and I should point out that it's not unfamiliar to have a quarterback who won a Super Bowl who thinks, amid all of this mediocrity on his coaching staff at the offensive play caller position, that maybe I should be the one to call some of these plays, right? Like, that's a very ancient trope in the NFL. But, Mina, I guess the last thing is we're looking at a contract where there are 2 years left, I believe, and it becomes a contract that is suddenly hypothetically movable. Do you expect there to be any movement as a result of this conversation about what he's willing to be flexible about himself?
I don't, but this is an organization that made that move before with Carson Wentz, which is to say aggressively moving on from a quarterback. So there's reason to believe when you look at their GM, same GM, Howie Roseman, he will do things and take risks that other GMs won't when it comes to the quarterback position. But for me, you'd have to see some real decline from Hurts or the offense wouldn't have to improve at all. And I think it will be better this season.
Yeah. We're about 48 hours away, by the way, from tip-off of the men's Final Four, getting back to college now. Because Illinois faces UConn in the early game. Michigan and Arizona square off later in the evening. Jeff Eisenberg of Yahoo is writing that for the second straight year, the 4 remaining teams are juggernauts, but that the heavyweight matchups make up for the lack of madness. So, Mina, is this year's Final Four better or worse for not having a Cinderella or underdog to speak of?
Well, it's better for my personal bracket, which is just choosing favorites. But as far as entertainment value goes, I would say it suffered for it in the early part, right? I mean, there were 21 games thus far with a point margin of 20 or more, which is an NCAA record. The theme of the tournament to this point has been dominance. It's been chalky. Now, the hypothetical benefit of that dominance and those massive margins of victory is that we actually have the 4 best teams now, and the basketball should be so good that it's all worth it. And I kind of think that's what's going to happen, Pablo, because for me personally, with both of these 2 games, I have gone back and forth a million times deciding who I think is going to win. The points margins, the odds reflect this. You have a UConn team that obviously just knocked off Duke with championship pedigree, going up against an Illinois team that loves to shoot threes and is really good at it. And on the other side, I do think Michigan and Arizona are the 2 best teams, and I truly don't know who's going to win that game. Maybe you can tell me. I don't know if you're confident in your picks, but all I'll say is that does bode well for this Final Four being a classic.
Yeah, look, I am the guy who has historically, back on Around the Horn, RIP, I've been historically picking a 16 seed over a 1 seed at every possible opportunity. You know my bracket is terrible. You know that. Now, the question of, like, am I enjoying this tournament any differently? Like, yeah, I miss that. I miss the underdog. Look, I love Goliath. I just think that Goliath, you don't appreciate even the full value of dominance if it's not contrasted against a true underdog. And I'm looking at I'm looking at my broken bracket, and yeah, like 11-seeded Texas was the closest thing we got, and Texas just happens to be one of the richest schools in America. So the pageant of college basketball, right? I'm not saying that the product, the games are bad. I think that we're clearly with the 4 best teams. That is true. I am merely saying that if we want college sports to be different in ways that resemble the true pageantry of little schools and big schools, then we certainly are not getting that anymore because of the economy of NIL and the transfer portal. That's undeniable too.
Yeah, especially when you look at these teams and you see players from overseas who chose to play in college, Michigan, Arizona in particular,
Illinois.
because the money is there. And that does lead to this conclusion that we've arrived at where we do have these dominant heavyweights.
Yeah, I'm mourning the fact that Mina and I are in a group chat about Asian athletes. There's a kid called Xavier Lee. He was at Princeton. He transferred to Florida because they were paying him millions of dollars. And if you're wondering why are we in this era in which the market seems more efficient and the tournament is more predictable, it's because stuff like that is happening, which is a complication of college sports. Anyway, there was a bell at some point back there before I talked about Asian people. It's time for a break probably, but coming up.
Got it in.
Should we believe in the Lakers title prospects if they... It is mail time. I love a game. Here's how it works. You send questions to Mike and Tony. They get answered by me and Mina. I will read the first one, if that's okay with you, Mina. All right. Ooh. Will you believe in the Lakers title prospects if they beat the Thunder tonight?
Not really. I will believe in the Lakers being competitive and it being a fun game, but I'm reminded of this time last year, Pablo, when these teams met in Oklahoma City. The Lakers actually demolished them on the road, and then all the flaws became apparent in the postseason. Now, I do think this Lakers team is better than that team. Over the last 14 games, they've won 13 of them. Luka's putting up like historic offensive numbers, and crucially, the defense has improved. Before the All-Star break, they were 23rd in defensive rating. Since then, they're all the way up to 12th. The problem is, and this isn't about the Lakers, the Thunder have been dominant wire to wire. It's not just a pre-post thing, and they show no signs of slowing up. Now, I do think the Lakers could absolutely win this game, particularly because a fun B-plot is the MVP battle, and Luka Doncic is going to play and show up very motivated to put up a fight. But I'm not going to come out of it suddenly convinced that the Lakers are the better team solely because of one matchup.
That's a very rational, data-driven argument. I agree that the Thunder might be the best run team in pro sports, frankly. And I think I lean your direction in the macro. But to focus in on Luka for a second, it's not merely that the defense is better and the team around him has improved. I mean, you're actually the one person with personal insight into this, because when you were at ESPN the magazine together, you had an assignment to profile Luka Doncic. And I want you to see what Luka looks like now, because he looks fantastic. But Mina, when he entered the league, what did Luka order for food in front of you?
2 orders of nachos at a Hard Rock Cafe in Spain. And I've got to say this. He does look better now than he did at age 19 when I saw him.
Your Honor, I rest my case. There is a world in which the NBA math can be complicated, also a world in which it's simple. He's one of the greatest players ever. He's in the best shape of his life in an actual way. I think it's closer than I think our brains would like to admit. Our stomachs have a different sense, is all I'm saying.
Lakers have a good defense. The Thunder have a great defense. All right. Speaking of great NBA players, I got an email about another one. Is Kawhi Leonard getting enough appreciation for the season he is having on the court?
Okay, so I will go off the court immediately just to acknowledge what it is that we're doing here and dancing around. Because yes, I've been asking the question, why was this secret deal that he made with this company called Aspiration, which is now collapsed into bankruptcy and was... I mean, frankly, it's just go Google the articles, go Google my podcast to see how it is that Steve Ballmer and Kawhi Leonard are deeply intertwined in ways that the Clippers don't want to admit.
Podcast.
All of that is happening over there. Secret deal. They never announced it. That's weird. Anyhow, what I've never had questions about is whether Kawhi Leonard is the caliber of player that you might want to circumvent a salary cap for. The dude is incredible. And I've been watching him, and I've been frustrated by him as an NBA fan because, of course, he's load managing, because he's so particular. But this season, he's been playing he's been more than peak Kawhi. He's been a version of himself I didn't think was possible. As a three-point shooter, it's unprecedented. As a general physical specimen, he's banged up, but playing more than he ever has, it feels like. Mina, this is why you do alleged circumvention deals, to get quality like this. Yeah. There is no doubt how incredible he is. He's an MVP candidate. Problem being, there are lots of other MVP candidates this specific season.
I think that gets to the core of the question, the actual question, which was, is he getting enough appreciation? I think he's not, but it's largely because of what you just said, which is this is the most stacked MVP field I can remember. I mean, Luka is not even one of the two front runners, and it's fair. It's accurate. You throw in Jalen Brown as well, Jokic. It's an unbelievable season that some of these stars are having, and it has almost overshadowed the fact that Kawhi Leonard, at 34 years old, is putting up career numbers in points per game, efficiency, true shooting.
Yes.
That and, well, his team's not as good, so that plays a role in it too.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you knew this was the Kawhi you were going to get, maybe they got him at a discount even. That's all I'm saying. But that's enough mail for now. I've already plugged my podcast. Let's take one, what? I just want to take one last break. Because when we come back, Mina, there's an important story. We'll be highlighting the Yankees' win over the Mariners yesterday. That's funny. I wonder who cares about that story.
And Browns boss Todd Monken has an interesting excuse for missing the league's annual coaches photo. Really hosts.
Ultimately has 17 times more Instagram followers than I do, which is an injustice. So please follow me over there at PS Torre as well.
I looked him up. Impressive young man. 100 international appearances, 20 goals. But Pablo, he has 0 Peabody Awards, which is the same number as you. You were just nominated, as you like to remind people. You didn't actually win.
Yeah, I was a unanimous finalist. Thank you very much. Happy anniversary, Jay Cutler. Moving on. God. On this day 17 years ago, you got dealt from the Broncos to the Bears. The trade included Cutler and a 5th going to Chicago for Kyle Orton, 2 firsts and a 3rd. Cutler spent 8 seasons with the Bears, leading them to the 2011 NFC Championship game, which he left in the 3rd quarter with an MCL injury, as the team lost to Aaron Rodgers, former Mina Kimes house guest, and the Packers. Cutler is still the Bears' all-time leader in passing yards and touchdowns, which might be less a tribute to him than a slam on the general history of Bears quarterbacking. And just like there are 2 Pablo Torres, we want to note here there are 2 notable Jay Cutlers, the other being the 4-time Mr. Olympia.
I remember this trade so vividly. I also remember his first start in Chicago. 4 interceptions week 1, was sacked 52 times that season, which kind of reflects the Jay Cutler era in Chicago. It wasn't all his fault. That said, that stat about him being the passing leader, incredibly depressing and also revealing as to why Bears fans have so much hope and stakes riding on Caleb Williams.
Right, and now I'm imagining Caleb Williams with bangs, which no one should envision. Happy trails, meanwhile, to retirement for Bill Self. The Kansas coach announced last night that he will return to the team for a 24th season. Self had left the door open after his team was eliminated from the tournament, saying at the time, quote, "I love what I do. I need to be able to do it where I'm feeling good and healthy to do it fairly well. I'll get back home and it'll all be discussed," end quote. Well, apparently those discussions went pretty positively. Self has suffered several health issues in recent years, including heart troubles. The 63-year-old has won 855 games in his college coaching career, which is so many games, and his winning percentage, Mina, at Kansas